Hi Flosstube, welcome to my channel. I am Heather, the 20-minute stitcher. I'm so happy that you are here. Thanks for joining me for this episode number 44, which I'm tentatively titling So Many Stitches. The StitchCon Stitchy Bug has apparently stayed with me, and I have done actually quite a lot of stitching in the last 2 weeks. So I have, a pile of projects that's about to fall over onto the floor over here. I have a lot to show today. So let's get into it. I've been participating in 2 different stitching challenges, which is one of the reasons why I have so much stitching today. And gosh, I was ready to jump right into it. So, but first I wanted to say welcome. I continue to get some new subscribers. I'm guessing many of them perhaps from StitchCon. So if this is your first video with me, welcome. I'm so happy that you are here. If you are a returning viewer, you know how much I love the little community here in my little corner of the internet. So thank you again, as always, for choosing to spend some of your precious time with me. Okay, now let's get into the stitching. So as I said, I am participating in 2 stitching challenges right now, and they're really the reason for so much stitching lately. So before that, sorry, I'm looking over my other monitor because I made some notes because I do have so much stitching. And I said I was going to get into stitching, but I did have one Q&A. So a viewer on my last video did ask a question, which I answered directly to them in the comment, but wanted to answer in this video for anyone else who might be interested. So that question was, what is my favorite fabric to stitch on? And the answer is typically an even weave of some sort. The slubs in linen tend to get on my nerves. I don't know why. It's just something about it. I do enjoy stitching on linen, though linen with lots of slubs in it gets on my nerves. Unless maybe I'm stitching something very, very primitive, which I don't do super frequently. But I would say kind of 32 count even weave, a Lugana or a Joblin are probably my sweet spot. But lately I've been enjoying 40 count in part because, and again, I forgot to bring these over here. I just realized like 2 videos ago they were new and I keep forgetting to show them. But I did finally get myself a pair of the like magnifiers, right, that you kind of put on your head like glasses. I will tell you, they make you look like a fool, but man, oh man, they have made all the difference in the world on my higher count fabric stitching. I actually enjoy those projects again. You probably know what I'm talking about. I can put the link to the ones that I purchased off Amazon in the description below. They weren't super expensive, but like I said, holy smokes, did they bring the enjoyment back on some of my projects like Halloween Quaker and others that are on higher count, especially darker fabrics that were kind of high stress for me to stitch before because it was hard to see the holes and I was freaking out about miscounting and being off. So yeah, anyway, I digress a little bit, but 32 count even weave is probably my sweet spot, probably my preferred. But as I was starting to say before I went off on the tangent about my amazing magnifiers, lately I've been more interested in the right fabric for the pattern. I've become sort of really in love with the daintiness of the higher count fabrics, especially for samplers and things like that. And sometimes I just love a good 16 count Aida too, depending again on what I'm stitching. So that was a very sort of roundabout answer to the question, but I would say probably a 32 count even weave is probably my sweet spot, probably what I stitch on most. As you'll probably notice when I'm going through my whips today, I'll be saying a lot of this is a 32 count Lugana or 32 count whatever. Part of that was because that was the Fabric of the Month Club that I was part of, was a 32 count Lugana. So I got a lot of that fabric. I have a lot of that fabric count in my stash. And so that's what I'm using. But so thank you for the question. I always love getting your questions and answering them. So if you have any, feel free to drop them in the comments. Okay, now for real. It's the 3rd time I've said it, but for real, we're getting into the stitching now. So I mentioned before, I'm participating in 2 stitching challenges right now. The one is WIPGO, which has been going on all year. And the other is the Summer Stitches Challenge, which is being hosted by the Naptime Stitcher. So I have lots and lots of projects to show from that. The first project I have, though, is a new start that is not part of either of those challenges. This is Enchanted Quaker by Luminous Fiber Arts. Here's the pattern. This is a pattern that I told myself at market was beautiful and amazing and I wanted it, and told myself I couldn't have it until I finished Halloween Quaker because they're just so similar, right? Spoiler alert, I have not finished Halloween Quaker, but my friend Katie, the novel stitcher, started a stitch along for this on June 30th. And I adore Katie, and I figured this was a sign from the universe that it was okay for me to buy this pattern. Y'all know, we make up stories for ourselves, right? But so I went ahead and purchased the pattern and kitted it up and started it on June 30th as part of the stitch along. So, and this is my progress so far. Y'all know, if you're new to my channel, I don't iron my stuff before my videos. So just FYI. So I started in the center because I purchased this fabric when I purchased the floss. It is a 40 count, picture this plus pewter. Newcastle linen, pewter Newcastle linen, yes. So this is a 40 count Newcastle linen, picture this plus in pewter. And I purchased it and couldn't remember how much margin I had left for myself. And I know I could have measured it and done the math and figured it out, but I went, I'll just start in the middle. So the kitty cat is right in the middle and I finished him. Now the pattern calls for, I think, just 310 to stitch it in, but I am stitching mine in Dinky Dye Silks in 2 different colors. So the first color that the cat is in is Night Sky by Dinky Dye, which is a lovely variegated black, gray, purple silk. And then the more traditional Quaker motifs that are not so dense in their stitching, I will be stitching in the colorway Halloween by Dinky Dye. I just love, I mean, you can see like all the colors of Halloween are in there, right? Black, orange, green, purple. I thought it might be a little too wild and crazy for some of the denser motifs like the cat or the witch or the cauldron, the house, things like that. But for instance, the border of the motif that the cat is on, I'm going to stitch in Halloween. The center of it, I'm probably going to stitch in Halloween. The pumpkins, I will probably do in Night Sky again. But the motifs above him will be in Halloween. So all the more traditional Quaker motifs I'm going to do in the Halloween floss. And then the more solid, dense stitching will be Night Sky. So that is my plan, and that is my little start on Enchanted Quaker by Luminous Fiber Arts. This stitch along is not a super formal stitch along. It's really more of a start along. The hashtag is Enchanted Quaker Sal. And if you do not watch Katie the Novel Stitcher, get on over there and watch her and hop on into the Sal. All right, so that's my first new start. I do have a couple of others. I will show them as part of the challenges. So I just figure normally, like most floss tubers, I do new start or finishes when I have finishes, new starts, whips. Since so much of my stitching other than that piece I just shared is part of these challenges, I'm going to organize my video today in that way. So whip go, June. I didn't write down the numbers that were called. I guess it doesn't matter because June is gone. But my 2 projects that were called were Haunted Library by Lola Crow Studios and Halloween Quaker by Lila Studios. And both goals were to put in 1,000 stitches on each of those projects, which I did. So the first one I will share is Haunted Library. And this is in, I forget who made this bag. Oh, Sherry So Sweet, project bag by Sherry So Sweet on Etsy. Sorry, my little tag is jangling. And what you can't see, unless I take everything out, which I can, is the inside of this bag has a very cool, spooky Halloween panel. I don't know if I have a before picture. Oh, actually, yes, I do, because I took a before picture before StitchCon, and I have a hanging thread. So I will post the before picture of where I was at the beginning of June. Well, actually, that's not true. It's a picture I took at the beginning of StitchCon, which I think I had started working on this already by then, but I hadn't gotten a ton in. And here is where I ended the month. So as many of you know, this stitch along ended not last fall. Maybe last fall? It's been done for a little while, I'll put it that way. So clearly I am behind, but what was added was I stitched all of this ghoul and his book, and I started in on Dracula up here. So I have most of the little, I call it a cloud, but I don't know what it is, the fog that's at his feet. And then obviously you can see his body starting to form in, his robe and things like that starting to form in underneath. So those were my 1,000 stitches. Just the detail. I love Lola Crow Studios, I have decided. I really, really love their patterns. They're dense. The staircase is very dense. It's a lot of stitching, but the end result, Cam, the stitcher I know, has finished hers. Obviously you can search on Instagram, the hashtag Haunted Library Sal, and you can see the other finishes that are out there. They're stunning. This is being stitched on a 32 count Lugana in the color in the color It's a Mystery by Bestitch Me. 2 strands of floss over 2. Then my second Whip Go call, as I mentioned, was Lila's Studio Halloween Quaker. I am stitching this entirely as called for on the called for fabric with the called for floss. And again, it's still in the Q-snap. Again, 1,000 stitches was the goal. I apologize. I didn't finish off the last thread, which is why it's still in the Q-snap, because I intend to go back and at least just finish off this thread before I take it out of the Q-snap. But here is where I am now. So as part of my 1,000 stitches, I did all of this here. So all her boots, her socks, the little motif above, the beginning of the little box there. I'm not exactly entirely sure what it is. A treat bag, I think, actually, because it says trick or treat here. And then this little motif up here. So that is my 1,000 stitches added to Halloween Quaker. So this is, as I mentioned, completely as called for. So the fabric is a 40 count Murky by Picture This Plus. I'm stitching it with all the classic Colorworks called for flosses as well as DMC 310. And I'm stitching it 1 strand of floss over 2 with my fancy new magnifiers that have made all the difference in my stitching world. So that is my Whip Go goals. Pardon me. My nose is running. Okay. Keep it real here on this channel, right? So those were the 2 projects that were part of my June Whip Go goals. Then, as I mentioned, the other challenge that I am currently stitching in is the Naptime Stitcher over on Instagram. Started a Summer Stitches challenge. So this is the printout that they put together with all of the challenges for each day. And you can see what I've written in there, what I'm working on. So it started on June 26th. Today is July 3rd. I am filming this on Monday, July 3rd. So we're halfway through the challenge. So I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because I haven't stitched on today's project yet. I have 7 different patterns to share with you today. So June 26th, the first day, this prompt was School's Out, stitch something with letters or words. That was Halloween Quaker that I just shared. On June 27th, the challenge or the prompt was Pool Day, stitch something with water. So I got out my Caterpillar Cross Stitch British Isles Sal. I'm still on part 1. It's done. And yeah. Anyway, so I pulled this back out and finished the Angel of the North here and stitched the water that is the border of the country there. So not a ton of stitching. A lot of these are not a ton of stitching, maybe 2 or 3 strands, but they're stitches in, and that's kind of my motto. For those of you new to my channel or don't know the story behind why I call myself the 20-minute stitcher, as a busy single parent, as a busy single parent, 20 minutes is sometimes all I get in a day. And that's enough for 1 or 2 strands of floss You add that up over time, you got projects finished. Maybe not as fast as other people, but they'll get done. So that was the second day. On the third day, wow, keeping it real, folks. That's 3 apparently. On the third day, June 28th, the prompt was sandcastles. Stitch something with a house or a building. And I pulled out my Little House Needleworks Jingle All the Way, which I absolutely love and did not realize how big it was until I purchased it. And I really should look at stitch counts before I purchase things. Doesn't matter. I still would have purchased it because I love the pattern. And this is where I am on this project. So again, I only had time to put in a couple of strands, but I filled in more of the house. So the house is right now at a point where I can just fill it in, the white. So, but you can see how much fill in there is. So this will be a good project for just when I'm tired and want mindless stitching. And I am stitching this 2 strands of floss over 2. And the fabric is a Picture This Plus 28 cashel linen in the color Heartland. And that is Jingle All the Way. The next prompt was catch fireflies, stitch something with an insect or a jar. And I used this opportunity to start something new that I have been wanting to stitch for quite a while. And this is Biodiversity Matters by Pixie cross stitch. I will put the picture up on the screen because this is a digital pattern. This was part of the Stitchers Collective Earth Day collection. And this pattern, other than just being awesome, one of the reasons I wanted to stitch it was because it is charted, as called for. It is charted with Cosmo flosses, which I have never stitched with, but I have heard people rave about them. And I just absolutely loved the, just the coloring. I mean, it looks iridescent, right? Which that beetle, if I forget what kind of beetle that is, but if you've ever seen them, they are iridescent. And so these are the colors. And they are just, I love them. They're gorgeous. So I decided to get started on this because the beetle is definitely an insect. And I am stitching this on a 32 count Lugana in the colorway Mock Turtle by Wonderland Hand-Dyed Fabrics. My friend Jamie owns this company, and her fabrics are gorgeous, and the modeling is not picking up here, but it's a beautifully subtly modeled kind of light green. So my beetle looks more like a porcupine right now, but he will be a beautiful little beetle probably fairly soon. This pattern is only like 47 by 45 or something like that. It's a very small little pattern. But that was my new start on June 29th for the prompt Catch Fireflies. And I met Christy, the designer behind Pixie, at StitchCon. I adore her. She's fabulous. Next was Block Party, June 30th. Stitch something with a border. And I pulled out my Dragons and Apples Sal by Quaternion Creations. Oh, everything is sticking to my needle minder. Why do I have 2 pairs of scissors in this bag? Y'all, I'm a mess. Okay, so this is, again, another stitch along that is completed. And speaking of Christy at Pixie, she's the one who shared this Sal, and the dragon lover that I am was like, oh, have to stitch it. Again, I am only on part 1. I will put a picture of the finished design up here. It is absolutely stunning. It tells the story of this little dragon from egg to adulthood with the woman who cares for him. And this is where I left off after. I think stitched on this for 2 days because I was having so much fun with it. Maybe not. It might have just been a lot of stitching on one day. It was a Friday, the prompt for this, and I tend to have more stitching time on Fridays. So I worked on this at StitchCon a little bit. So you saw this in my last video as well. So what I added as part of this Summer Stitches Challenge, I finished up this border here. I started the interior border and stitched these 3 little mushrooms or whatever they are. This pattern, as you could probably tell from the picture, the original pattern calls for only 3 colors, a black, a gray, and a red. I added a 4th, and it might look familiar from my Enchanted Quaker. I am stitching the exterior borders in Night Sky by Dinky Dyes. And then one of the reasons I stitched so much is because I kind of got to this point and I said, I want to put the red in. I want to see what the red looks like. The red is, I think, Chinese pea. Is that what the color name is? Sorry. Here we go. Desert pea. I don't know. Oh, the other red was like a Chinese red. I purchased 2 reds to consider, and desert pea is the one that won out. The other one was called Chinese red. The black is called black coral, and the gray that I will eventually use when I get there is called distant thunder. So that is the Dragons and Apples Sal, which is stunning. It is huge. It will take me quite a while to finish, but I absolutely love it. I am stitching this. I love the modeling on this fabric too. I am stitching this on a 32 count Lugana from Bestitch Me in the colorway Portobello, which I just love. The Lugana oftentimes doesn't pick up modeling in the same way that linens do, but it sure did in this one, and I just love it. All right, my next prompt was take a hike, stitch something with a tree or a plant. And again, I picked up my other Quaternion Creations pattern. I'll put the picture on the screen. This is Gaia, again, part of the Earth Day collection, or the Stitchers Collective Earth Day pattern. This is being stitched with a sulky thread in the color Peacock Blue, I think, or Peacock Plume. It's this gorgeous variegated. This was the called for floss from that the model was stitched in. And here is where I am now on Gaia. So I finished the globe and added in everything on the upper left. So all of this over here and the beginning of her arm there, the lower part of her arm. It's nice to have one or two different, I mean, I call it monochromatic. It obviously is, the end result is not, but it's just one floss. So no floss color changes, which is kind of nice. So that is Gaia by Quaternion Creations, which I believe is available through her website now. Most of the Earth Day patterns are now available directly from the designers. They weren't for a little while, but I believe they all are now. So then that brings us to yesterday, July 2nd. The prompt was bird watching, stitch something with a bird. So I pulled out Nevermore by Lila Studios. I'll put a picture of the pattern up on the screen. This I am stitching with the Forbidden Fiber Company floss conversion. So here are the flosses. And I'm stitching this also on a Forbidden Fiber Company fabric. I forget the name of the color. Let me see if I can find it quickly on my Winter Sparrow. This is a 25 count. This is a 25 count Lugana in the colorway Winter Sparrow by Forbidden Fiber Company. I did not add much on this yesterday. I'm stitching this 1/1 and I'm loving it because it is so dainty, the stitches. And this is a pretty big pattern, so stitching 1/1 will help it. I mean, I think even 1/1, it's going to be almost 8 by 10. So I finished up this, I was about halfway. I was kind of right around here with this motif. So everything above here I finished on this motif. We'll see how close in my camera can zoom. But you can see how little dainty, delicate those 1/1 stitches are, and I just love them. So yeah, that was yesterday. Nevermore by Lila Studios. There's a bird. It's up here somewhere. Didn't get on the bird, but did make progress on the pattern, which is nice. And that brings me to today, which I mentioned I haven't stitched on today's pattern yet. So that's all I have to show for now. So in my next video, I will have 7 more projects, assuming I'm able to stick with this every day. I am traveling at the end of this week, so the 7th, 8th, and 9th, it's going to be a little tricky as to whether I get any stitching time in on those days, but we will try. All right, those are all of the WIPs that I worked on in the last 2 weeks. Plans moving forward. So July, WIP Go, obviously, the numbers have been called. Number 13, the free space, was called this month. So that means there were actually 3. Look, I got it right this time. 3 numbers called for July. Jessie Marie, who is the mastermind behind WIP Go, that's kind of her way. When the free space gets called, then she calls another number so that there are 3 in total. For me, well, the numbers were 9, 13, and 21. So 9 for me was Happy Fall Y'all by Sweet Wings Studio, which I actually finished at StitchCon and shared in my last video. So I actually only have 2 projects to work on in July, which is nice. 13, the free space for me, I decided to make it a new start in the sort of foolish premise that I wouldn't be starting very many other things, that I would really be focusing on WIPs this year. Right, we all laugh. But I think I've had 12 or 13 new starts this year. I have a problem, but I'm pretty sure we all have the same problem, so it's all good. But for me, the new start that I designated when I set up my WIP Go board was Pumpkin Kisses by Primrose Cottage Stitches. And my goal was literally just to start it, which I did on July 1st, just because I was stitching and I was excited. So this is the pattern, Pumpkin Kisses. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know I absolutely love the fall season. I didn't stitch much. I just kind of got the words started and stitched part of the sunflower motif. So this is what I got done in maybe about 45 minutes of stitching on this pattern. So there is the M, the P, the start of the U. Yeah, the start of the U, and then the yellow of the sunflower above it. And this is being stitched with just the called for DMC on a 28 count. This was just a fabric from my stash. I think it actually was a fabric from my mom's stash that she then gave me. Yeah, this is a 28 count Witchelt Jobelin. It says Prairie Grain. I'm guessing that's the colorway. Yeah, I think so. So that was my new start on Pumpkin Kisses. So I suppose I can already mark that WIP Go goal off. I'll probably work on it a little bit more. Those Primrose Cottage, these patterns, they're nice because they're small. They're easy to travel with. So maybe while I'm sitting at my kids' fencing lessons or something, this is a nice, easy one to have to travel with. I don't need my iPad or anything like that. So that is number 13 for me. Number 21 for me is Grow Through What You Go Through by Stitch Rovia. This was my pattern that I started in May of 2022 for hashtag, I think it's hashtag Mental Health May. That is hosted by Candy, the 614 Stitcher. And I really haven't touched it since last May or June. Let me see if I have a picture that is not, yeah. That is not the actual pattern. So this is the picture of the finished product. It was part of a series of sort of affirmations from Contemporary Cross Stitch Collection magazine. So grow through what you go through. My WIP Go goal is to stitch 7 days on this, and I did already stitch on 1. Let me grab my board because I think this fabric's going to be a little see-through. This is being stitched on just a 28 count Jobelin. And here is where I am right now. I'm kind of at this stage of filling in this banner. And that's what I worked on day 1. I filled in sort of this portion of the banner here. So as I said, my goal is to stitch 7 days. So I have 6 days left. The banner's pretty dense, but all the rest of it is fairly quick. I think I'm going to see where I get in my 7 days. I might try and just go for a finish in June. So those are my July WIP Go calls. So obviously my July goals will be to meet my July plans will be to meet my goals on those 2 or I guess just on grow through. Technically, I've already met my goal on my new start. And then also finish out the Summer Stitches Challenge. Today's goal or today's challenge is, or prompt is, to stitch something with snow or a cold theme. So I'm going to be pulling out the Reindeer by Cottage Garden Samplings, which I forgot to bring over here. I started that as part of my New Year's Eve 12 by 12, but haven't picked it up since New Year's Eve. So I'm excited to get some more stitches in on that today. And that's all my stitching for you. In terms of other plans, I know this is the time of year when lots and lots of people are filming their mid-year whip parades. I didn't film one last year because my channel was only 4 or 5 months old. And I'm not sure whether I'm going to film one this year. I have so many whips that I haven't touched since the start of the year that I sort of feel like any mid-year whip parade is going to be like, and I haven't touched this since 2022. And I haven't touched this since 2022. But I'm not opposed to filming one if people are interested in seeing one. I know I certainly enjoy watching the mid-year whip parades from other Flosstubers. So let me know in the comments if you don't care that I'm going to be showing you a bunch of stuff that I haven't touched in months and months and months. I am definitely a process stitcher more than a progress stitcher. It doesn't really bother me to have a bunch of whips, other than I'm starting to run out of space for where I put my whips. So I guess I need to finish them. But I stitch more because I like to work on projects. I like the excitement of starting new things. It doesn't bother me to have a bunch of whips out there. I like having options of what I want to work on when I feel the mood. Anyway, so yeah, let me know in the comments if you're just dying to see a mid-year whip parade, even if a lot of it's going to be, I haven't touched this in like 7 months. Which, speaking of whips, just going to throw a thought out there. Let me know in the comments what you think. I noticed when I was prepping for StitchCon, one of the reasons I took so many projects to StitchCon with me is I have a lot of whips that aren't really that far from a finish. Maybe a week of attention and they'll be done. And I know that there are some challenges and hashtags out there in the Stitchyverse already to reduce whip numbers, right? Like I know Michelle Bendy has, I think it's the whip down challenge going on. I think that's what it's called. I think Marjorie Maid also has started some sort of a game challenge to complete whips. So maybe there's enough out there already and I don't need to worry about this, but I've been thinking about some sort of fun challenge to encourage myself and others to complete those whips that just need a little bit more love or attention in order to be a finish. I'm thinking like some sort of goal, right? Set a goal for the number of projects I think I can finish by the end of 2022. And then if I achieve that goal, I get some sort of reward or prize for myself, right? And I'd be happy to sort of extend that to anyone else who'd be interested in participating. Y'all can email me with what your goal is or whatever it might be, and we can do kind of an end of the year check-in, and I'll come up with some sort of prize or something to, I don't know. It was just a thought that I had because I was sort of like, oh wow, this is closer to a finish than I thought it was. Oh, so is this. I mean, I ended up with 6 or 7 projects that I thought, if I kept getting distracted by other shiny new objects, I could get this done. So I'm kind of toying with the idea of maybe challenging myself and others who might want to participate. So if that would be of interest to you, if you'd like me to put something together, let me know. Maybe I will. Or if you're like, hey, no, you should go do what this person over here is doing, participate in that challenge, let me know that too. Yeah, because I've got lots of things that are not that far away from a finish. So, all right. I guess that's it. I guess that's all I have for you. The last thing I wanted to say is, so usually I comment on lots and lots of other Flosstube videos that I watch, but lately I have been watching in situations where I haven't had my computer or my phone handy. I've been kind of watching on TV while doing other things. So if you are a Flosstuber who watches my channel and I watch yours and I typically comment and you haven't seen comments from me lately, know that I've still been watching. I just have kind of been in situations where I haven't had a device handy in order to like a video or leave a comment. I'm trying to kind of get better about that, keeping my phone by me so that I can add comments, because I know I love to get comments and I love to respond to comments. And I'm sure that most of you do as well. I love the engagement that we get, even though this is an asynchronous type of format. I love the community that we've built, and I love being part of it. And I love being part of it by commenting on your videos and responding to comments that you leave on mine. So I just wanted to make that note. Know that I haven't stopped watching. I haven't decided I don't care about commenting anymore. It's just sort of been confluence of circumstances that I've not had a device at the ready in order to be able to comment and like. So just wanted to put that out in the universe. All right, I hope you enjoyed what I had to show today. This video is a little bit longer than my typical video, but lots and lots of stitching to show. So I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to comment with any questions that you have for me. If you'd be interested in any sort of get your whip count down, finish some projects kind of challenge, or anything else that you want to put in the comments. I will close, as I always do, by saying to take care of yourself, hug your loved ones, and happy stitching.